Okay, going to do some maintenance here on Yamaha Waverunner EX Sport. So first we're going to change the spark plugs on this. It's a little sooner than this one would need it. You're supposed to replace them at 100 hours. This one's at 74, which is fine. If you're going to take them out, the spark plugs aren't terribly expensive. My opinion is it's worth just changing them if they're in your hand, and you're supposed to inspect them. So first thing we're going to do here is you need to remove the seat. So I'm going to remove the seat. There's the little latch from behind. I'm assuming you probably, if you're going to tackle this size of a project, this size of a project, you probably know how to do this, but get your seat off, and then you need to remove the two storage compartments so that we can get access to the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera here and assume that you can do that part all by yourself, and then we'll start in on taking off the ignition coils. I'm in the engine compartment here. Right on top, you got your 3 ignition coils, and obviously underneath there is the spark plug. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll have to take off these clips, and so I'll show you how all that works. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is get the tools we need and set up the camera, and we'll start pulling this apart. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do, and I always go one at a time. Now, you can look at the wiring harness. The chances that you get the electrical harness off, on the wrong ignition coil is pretty remote, because you'd really have to stretch to try and pull it over there. But best thing to do with spark plugs is just go one at a time. So we'll just take this boot off and then go ahead and get the ignition coil off. Okay, so go ahead and we'll remove this. And I'd just say be careful not to drop anything in there, because it's when you drop it in the bottom of these, it's kind of hard to fish out. Okay. All right, we'll get the other one off. So that's why I'm doing this with my fingers at the end. All right, and then you're just going to want to wiggle this out. It'll be tough. By the way, this is really clean, but if there was a bunch of dirt and grime, you want to take your like a dust gun with your air compressor and blow it out. This one's really clean. It's been well taken care of, and there's really just no grime, so it's not necessary. So just go ahead and wiggle it off, and eventually it'll pull out. And so you can see here's the ignition coil. Here's the boot that's supposed to seal it so no water can get in. You want to look at that and just make sure that everything looks like it's in good shape. Because if for some reason any of this rubber around here doesn't seem like it's in good condition, then you're going to want to immediately go to replacing this ignition coil, because the whole concept of this is that nothing should be able to no water should be able to get down in there. So with that in mind, then the next thing we need to do is go ahead and get the spark plugs out. So we'll start that next. Okay, so now we're going to go in here and get the spark plug out. See how much room I have. Sorry, I'm just feeling out my wrench to see if I can clear underneath there, and I can. Okay, so let's go ahead and loosen this. Okay, and you can see it came out pretty easy. So this is my personal preference. Once I get a spark plug broken free, I will just feed it like that. I will just go ahead and twist the extension with the spark plug socket until I can feel it coming out, because that reduces any chance of doing any damage to any of the threads. This is an aluminum engine, so you definitely don't want to create any problems for yourself in that regard. And I'm just spinning it out, and it's a lot of threads. If you look at the new one, and I'll show it to you, I pull it out, it's going to take a little bit of time, and that's just fine. Okay, and unfortunately, my boot just wasn't tight enough on there, so I dropped the spark plug in. So that's no problem. I'm just going to get some needle nose pliers and we'll fish that out. Hopefully, that's sort of frightening to me that my spark plug socket did that, but it can be worked around. So I'm going to go fix that right now. Okay, so I've got some needle nose pliers here. I'm just pulling it out, and then before I film the replacement of this, I'm going to the auto parts store to buy a new socket, because that just plain shouldn't happen. So because it should be tight on there. So in short, this is the spark plug. You can see here that it doesn't look like it's in the. Oh, by the way, I was gonna say that's how many threads are in there, so it does take a while to thread out. I look at the electrode. It isn't. I mean, you can see there's a little bit of carbon on here, but that carbon isn't too bad. And the gap, it doesn't look too bad. I'll show you that versus the new one. So, you know, at the end of the day, could I go ahead and go with this one again? Probably, but I got the new one right here, and there's no reason not to do that. So, because you can see there's a little bit of wearing on that, but not a, I mean, it was definitely sparking and running just fine. So, all right, so next thing we'll do is go ahead and put this spark plug in, but like I said, I got a quick run to the auto parts store and get an actual spark plug socket that has a rubber part that isn't worn out, so I don't drop that incorrectly down there. Okay, so I'm back from the auto parts store. Also got a new spark plug socket, so we don't drop any more spark plugs down there. And so then the last thing is so if you're just going to reuse your spark plugs, you need to check your gap, and it's supposed to be thousandths of an inch. It's supposed to be basically between 0.028 and 0.031. So these are pretty much right there. So I don't feel like these are like you wouldn't have to adjust these and put them back in, but if the gap was out, you would need to. And so I've got my new spark plugs. That and probably an important tip, I always like to take out the spark plug and then take it to the auto parts store, because yes, you can look it up by model, you can put it on the manual, but nothing's better than taking the actual plug and matching it to the actual plug, in my opinion. So then get the other one here, and so so I've got this right at 0.028, so that's perfect because it's at the brand new spark plugs at the minimum the gap can be, and as a result of that, this spark plug will have its entire life to wear past where the minimum gap has to be. All right, so a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. A lot of people say you have to put anti-seize on this. You can see this didn't have anti-seize on it before it was pulled out. It came out just fine. So the difference is if you're doing a car, right, those spark plugs will be in there for a very, very long time. If you're following Yamaha's service manual for this, or the owner's manual has it in there too, you're basically you're checking the spark plugs every 12 months, which means these spark plugs are regularly getting put in and put out. So you just don't have to worry about that. You can also notice you could put some dielectric grease on here, but there wasn't any on the boot, and so I'm not gonna, and the service manual doesn't call for that. Also, by the way, anytime you get a spark plug, you always do the comparison. You can see they're the exact same length, so you have to worry about the head of the piston hitting it, causing damage that way. And so normally, like I said, the anti-seize is a factor of a car that the spark plugs sit in there for an ordinary amount of time. Power sports stuff doesn't require that, and like I said, Yamaha doesn't require boot grease, although if you put it on there, it wouldn't hurt anything. All right, so let me go ahead and get this set up, and we'll go ahead and put the spark plug in. All right, so I've got my spark plug socket here. Funny part of the story. Apparently, I bought a, instead of a 3/8 inch drive spark plug socket, I bought a 1/2 inch, but I got an adapter on here, would be just fine, or I guess I could put my 1/2 inch in, but I didn't bother. So now I always thread this in without using the socket because you do not want to cross thread this. Just going to make things miserable. So I'm just going to go ahead and set it in there. And then we're just going to slowly thread it in until it's taut, and then we'll set the torque spec. And remember how many threads there were on that? It's going to take a while, so that's okay. Just be patient. Okay, you can feel that. I can't twist any tighter, so let me go get the torque wrench now, and we'll go ahead and set the torque. Okay, so now that we got the spark plug finger tight, we're going to go ahead and torque this down. So the torque spec on this is basically 9.6 foot-pounds. This is my smaller torque wrench. It works in foot-inches. So you convert 9.6 foot-pounds into foot-inches. It's 115.2. I set it at 115. I doubt that 0.2 is going to ever cause me any grief. Then we just need to torque this down. Oops. Okay. There we go. I always give it 3 clicks. And yep, that's torqued down. Okay, let's go ahead and get our spark plug socket out. So got that out. All right, let's put our ignition coil back on. Okay, just kind of wiggling that on, making sure I've got it seated really good because I really want that watertight seal. Right, and I don't have a torque spec for these, so it's the good old saying, tight enough so it doesn't come loose and not too tight that you strip it. So I'm just kind of choking up on it. I think that'll be just fine. All right, and then let's not forget to put the electrical connector back on. All right, and then we'll just keep working our way through. Oops. So yeah, for this side, you can see you can take this cover off, but if you know, it's a little bit of extra work if you can avoid it. So I'm just going on either side here, trying to work around it. Also, should probably have taken off the electrical connector, but okay, can do that after the fact. And we get it out. Okay, got the ignition coil out. And then, yeah, if you just got to get the wrench in there. Okay, so I've got a slightly longer extender, and I'm just gonna, and there we go. It actually, I think I overcompensated. You can see it's right there. So you probably get away with just one. Okay. Got it free. I was using my old socket, so let me get the new one on there. The one that I know I won't drop this, because that would be very uncomfortable. Okay, it's free. And I'm just going to disconnect. There you go. Got it out without taking the cover off. So, you know, it's doable. It's a little tight, but it's doable. Okay, I got my new spark plug. Got my extender. Just threading it in. Okay, got it torqued. Okay, so that's the last one. So at this point, let's get the boot back on. Okay, got the boot here. Push it back on. All right, so that's basically how you change the spark plugs in a 2019 Yamaha EX Sport Waverunner. You know, it's possible, so this has got the TR1 engine, so I would assume that all the TR1s would be the same. So if you don't have this exact model, but you get the TR1 engine, you can follow what I showed you here today. So, you know, as always, thank you for watching. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thank you.